Hello everyone, welcome to another DuBois tutorial video where the goal is to learn cool things about Tableau by recreating the amazing work of DuBois. And so for today, we're going to be looking at challenge number 2 from the 2023 challenge. And the visual we're going to be recreating in Tableau is called the value of land owned by Georgia Negroes. As we can see, it literally has bags of money in there, and we can see how the bags are growing over time, and it's basically symbolic to show that the value of the land owned is increasing over time. We can see that in 1875 it starts off about 1.26 million, and then around 1899 it's at 4.2 million, so like 3 times the value over those like 10-12 years or 20 whatever years. So not bad, man. Lots of growth there, and I think this is just an overall success story that we're looking at. The extra little bit of context there which can help for those who will appreciate this part of history. 1875 was, after slavery was abolished, and so black people who live now at this point in time had the opportunity to actually own things. And as we can see, right, now that they're no longer being held back, they're able to grow and build their wealth. All right, so cool story there. Let's kind of exit this. I'll show you what I was able to come up with. So we have here basically simple viz. We've got the title, and we've got the years 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, and 99. And this was done using map layers in Tableau, and so that's the concept that we're going to be using today. This money bag is basically a shape that was imported into Tableau. So these are 2 very simple concepts that really open up the door for us with respect to what we can do. I especially love map layers. I think that it's been used in so many cool ways in the community, and so hopefully when you get the hang of this, you too can use it in many cool ways. All right, so as usual, I do have my data in here. I do have everything here, but I'm going to run through all the steps from scratch. And so the first thing we need some data. So let's hit data and let's go new data source. Now you will also have access to the data set via the challenge link on GitHub. I'll post a link in the description for you as well, so you can please grab that and check it out. And I'll also try to put some resources about things like map layers and some of these concepts. That way you can also do your own research and kind of dig deeper beyond what we can see here in this video. Okay, so moving on. This text file, we can see that I have the challenge 2 CSV stored in my folder. I'm going to click this. I'm going to click open, and as you see, it's a very simple data set. We have a column for the years that are going to be shown, and then we have the value of land for those years. Now let's go ahead and create a new sheet. The first thing we want to do, let's create our layers. So let's do, actually I'm going to stay on this data set for a specific reason, the things I want to show you. So let's create a calculated field, and let's call this year layer. And how we're going to do this is we're going to leverage this year field. We're using a case statement to tell Tableau where to plot our points for our map. Now let's say case year. Actually, I'm going to go to this sheet where I have the years laid out just for a reference for the particular years there. So case year, when 1875, then make a point at 0, 0. So one thing to keep in mind is columns, rows, and so we're asking this to just give us 1 dot at this coordinates. Now Another thing to keep in mind is, obviously with Tableau, right, we have our scales, right? X, y-axis, x-axis. So therefore, for the rows, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it moves upward. That's the normal count. But we want ours to move downwards, so we're going to be adding a minus in front of these numbers. Just watch and you'll understand. So when 1875, then make point this. When 1880, then make point, instead of saying 1, 0, because if we put 1, 0, then we're going to go 0, 1. I want to go 0, 1 downwards, so I'm going to add a minus to that. And then we do the same thing when 1885, then make point at -2, 0. And then let me just act quickly by copying these, Control-C, Control-V, and then I modify this to say -3, -4, -5. And then we're going to say from 1885 to 1890, 1895, and 1899. And so let's kind of experiment. Let's see how this is looking. We drag this and drop it in the view. That's how we create a new layer. And you can see, let me just move this out of the way. You can see here that Tableau has created those lines that we need. I'm just going to tap this home to pull it in because that's not moving. So I'm going to drag it in a bit. So we can see here that the marks have been created. Now we have the marks. The next thing we need to do is actually we need this money bag shape, which is essentially what's going to be representing our data. Now to do that, I'm going to jump out of Tableau for a second. The first thing that I had to do is I used Adobe Stock. I got a trial there, and then I downloaded this burlap bag image. Actually, let me do this. I actually downloaded this bag, but you can see it has a white background and I wanted to get rid of it. And so how I did that, I'll put a link in the description. I went to a site called remove.bg, and that's a site that you can use to remove backgrounds from your images. So that's what I needed to have, was basically just that image there. And so I right clicked, I copied the image, and now we're going to add this into Tableau by clicking on Documents, and then you want to look for your Tableau repository. Documents, my Tableau repository, double click, and then under Shapes you want to double click. Now you see a bunch of folders there. I created one for DuBois, so there it would just be right click, new folder, and then inside that folder I pasted that image there. And so once this is done, we can exit, and then we go back into Tableau here. And so when we go to this space, we can change the marks to shape, right? And then you see that it's just 1 point. The reason is because we need to grab the year field and put it on the detail as well. So now we can see it expands back, and you can now see actually the years that we have created on this row. So now that we have the shape, we can click on shape to edit the shape that shows. Normally you can pick whatever is built into Tableau, but we're going to go more shapes, and then I'm going to select the palette. I'm going to find my DuBois. I'm going to click the money bag. I'm going to click apply, and now we have those money bags in Tableau. For the size, they're going to be sized according to the value of land. So we want to grab the land value field and drop it onto the size. And you can see that it moved a little bit, but you know, we just need to play around a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the size. Boom. And you can see here that we've got some nice money bags. Now, the next thing we want to do is let's grab this same field again, year layer, and drop it into the view to create a second layer. Now you can see that it's created a new set of marks for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to convert this. We're going to grab the year field first of all. Remember that. Put it on detail. Let me expand this a little bit. And then we want to change the mark to text. So we're going to click here, hit text. And then we're going to grab this detail for the year. We're going to change it. Actually, no. What do we label it with? Let's see. Label it with the dollar amount. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab the land value. We're going to put it onto text. And then you can see that the value of land is coming to the view. I'm going to format this a little bit by right clicking and hitting format. I don't want the numbers to stretch outside of the bags. And so, I mean, technically you can leave it like this if you want to. I'm going to abbreviate it just so that it's cleaner. So I'm going to go currency, custom, 1 decimal place, and show it to me in the millions. So keep in mind that yes, I know this means that these two are going to have the same number, but what I did for mine is I put a tooltip that actually shows the number so that people can hover and see the exact amount. So that's something to keep in mind. Now that we have this, we want to create, actually let's do this. I'm going to create a new dashboard so that we can stretch this out and see properly what we're working with. So I'm going to hit here, new dashboard. I'm going to hit dashboard. I'm going to grab this sheet here, sheet 3, pull it into the view. I'm just going to remove this. Delete containers. And then let's make this a little bit slimmer and taller. And then for the map, we can hit home so it stretches out. Boom. Now, I want to say something here. You can see that these bags are like, because of the sizing that's going on, starts smaller space. But the bigger the bags get, the smaller the space in between them. There's different ways to handle this. The simple way is to basically just make the view longer, and then you can scroll outwards to stretch the bags out, right? That's like one way. But that's honestly not what I did, because I noticed that it just kept moving down. So I had to essentially play around a bit, and I'm going to go back to the sheet and show you what I did. I went into this field here. This is the original layers field I created, and you'll notice that I have played around with these numbers to make them a little bit more exact. So I'll show you how that works, but then I'm just going to replace the field with, I spent time experimenting with this to finesse and make it fit. So I'll show you what I did, and then you can understand what's happening. So just watch the view here, and I edit the year layer. I can basically say, okay, for this number 3 here, let's move it downward a little bit. So how would we do that? We want to add something to this. So it's 1 bag, 2nd bag, 3rd bag. Let's go let's say 2.3, and we hit apply. Now you notice how it moved down, right? You can do the same thing for here, bag number 4. You can kind of just play around and see what can you add and subtract to make the things more evenly spaced. And that's the cool thing about map layers, is you get to decide. Literally, you can build points like anywhere. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm just going to use the one that I've already done previously. So just keep in mind, what I did to make it fit is by playing around with these coordinates. So I'm going to grab the years and actually replace it here and in our original here. So these fit, you can see they fit much nicer. When we go to the dashboard, the spacing makes a lot more sense. So that's how I ended up with this. Now we need a 3rd layer for the labels of the years under the bags, and we applied the exact same concept. So I have a field called where is that, year label. I'm going to edit that so you can see it's the exact same concept. I started out with this field that we built, and then I did the same thing. I just essentially moved the number down a bit further, down further, exact same concept. So when I grab this label and put it in the view, it all shares the same column, but they're on separate rows. You can see the marks down here where we're going to be using to label. I can actually make this a little bit taller. Yes. Perfect. So now we go back to the sheet. So that's our third layer and our final layer. We're going to basically change this to text as well by clicking here, hit text, and okay, so I had to pause for a quick second, but I'm back. So as we were saying, we're just going to convert this to text, and then we're going to click this detail, these three dots under year, and change it to text. And so now we can see that all the years are shown on the bags, and this is how it looks on the dashboard. So you can see it's well spaced out. Now I'm going to change this font to Verdana. That's the font that I've chosen to use for this particular viz. And so we're going to hit text here and just say Verdana. In my previous DuBois videos, I used Courier New font, but I think I might change to Verdana. It actually seems like more close, seems closer to the DuBois font. So, and it's also a web safe font, meaning that when we publish to Tableau Public, it's rendered on all, if not most, computers out there. I guess this is something I should probably put a link for in the description as well. This is another consideration for when choosing fonts in Tableau. So back to this viz here, we've changed the font to Verdana. Now we can come to the dashboard and start to clean up. This is essentially all we need for the visual. Everything else is basically just going to be formatting. So let's click here. I'm going to hide this title. And then let us hit this. Change the background to this color here. You can see the hex code. What I did was I color picked from the original viz, and so what color picking is basically you can go more colors, pick screen color, and then you hover and you pick the color. So I just essentially did that. In Tableau you can just essentially any screen, so let's say you go more colors, pick screen. I'm going to slide over to my other computer screen, and basically like you can hover anywhere to color pick. So I'm just gonna stay here. So now we have this background. Let us add in a title, but first I want to move this down a little bit so I can put my title here. To do that, let me actually go show title. I'm gonna double click, I'm gonna here backspace, and I'm just gonna put some space in between. Hit apply so that it pushes down. Again, hit OK. Scroll down. Okay. Now let's just grab a dashboard. We're gonna grab a text box, and then we're gonna type out. Let me look at the title. So the original title is Value of Land Owned by Georgia Negroes. I adapted that to say Value of Land Owned by Black People in Georgia. So we're gonna just copy that text. All we're doing is we're basically just popping it into a text box. Control V. I'm gonna center it. Hit OK. Hit this. Make it floating. Stretch this out a bit. Slim this down a bit. And we have our title. The next thing that I did for mine, just to sort of spruce it up a bit, I added a container here, a vertical container, and I hit this to make it floating, and then I placed it underneath the title here. And then I went to the repository by AJ where all our resources for the project are, and I took a picture. I saved the image of the original, and so we can grab image here and put it in this container. I'm going to go center, fit image, and then I'm going to choose the image to bring in. We just need a file. So in my DuBois challenge file, we have the original plate here, number 18. We click this, we hit open, we hit apply, that looks good, we hit OK. Next thing I did, I just grabbed another text box, and then I just wrote a quick introduction. This visual is a recreation of value of land owned by Georgia Negroes created by W.E.B. Du Bois. And then let's center this. I'm going to use the same font, Verdana. Hit here, boom, boom. Drag it down a bit to space it out. And then I'm going to hit layout. I'm going to select that vertical container and I'm going to color it the same color as the viz. So we're just going to go back to background. And this is the most recent color I used. So I'm going to just click it. And now you can see that, you know, it fits nicely with the background. If you want to, you can kind of drag it down, but I'm not really going to do that because our viz is much longer. And now we hit the vertical and we're going to select this arrow. We're going to say add show hide button. This allows us to add a button that hides and shows the container so that it's not always visible. So how that works is you can hit Alt and click. Let's center this a little bit. So we have this little menu here where they can click and get that information. The X closes it up. And so one thing to keep in mind, because we're not in presentation mode is basically when you go Windows Present, and then you can open and close and just view it interactively. But when we're in development mode, you have to click Alt and click to view. So just something to keep in mind as you're building and you want to kind of test out what you're doing. So I can go here and close this. And the final thing I did, of course, just identify a few things like the data source, which came from AJ Starks. Thank you, Mr. AJ. The design is by yours truly, Mr. Chimdi Nwosu. And then I'm just gonna put this little recognition hashtag so that, you know, we can promote and get some participation. So DuBois Challenge 2023. Let's make this a little bit bigger, size 14. I'm not trying to hide this. This we can make it gray. So I'm not that important. But the title, DuBois, he's important. So let's make it dark. Let's center this. Let's use Verdana. Let's hit OK. And then I'm going to drag this down a bit. And let's color it to match the background. Layout, background. So click this, background. Boom. You can see some white spaces here. So we're going to have to remove the padding from this. And to do that, we hit outer padding. Select, change it to 0. And what else do we need to do? So however you get your image, you have to remember to declare and cite it if it's not yours. If you take a bag of money and you have a photo of it on your own, fantastic. If you build a bag in Figma, fantastic. But I got this from Adobe stock, and so I'm just gonna write give my credits down here. Photos used are from Adobe stock. I mean, I hope this is okay. I will go cross-check at the end of this video to make sure that I'm citing this correctly. But the whole idea is that we want to give credit to where credit is due, whether it's the data source, whether it's the images, whatever the case may be. So that's something to remember as you're building this. Use photos, you're publicly posting it, you have to give credit to where credit is due. Okay? So let me say photos used in this viz are from Adobe stock. And so there you have it. We go into presentation mode. We can see here our 1875. We see the values. We go all the way down to the 1899. We see the values. Oh, actually, one thing I'm going to do too, because you can see here we have the abbreviations 4.2, 4.2. What I did in mine is I actually created a copy. Let's go back here. I created a copy of the land value dollars, and I dropped this into the tooltip. And so for that reason, we can go right click, format, and just leave this one as a currency. Maybe like no decimal places, no abbreviations. And when we hover, you can now see, okay, that 1.3 is 1.2, blah, blah, blah. So let me change this real quick. I'm going to remove this 2 here. Okay. So when we hover, we can see now. Actually, let me add it to this tooltip as well. So let's go to the other. So we have it. Exits. Let's grab land value dollars, put it on tooltip, and then tooltip. Remove the first one and leave the second one. So now when we go back to the dashboard and we hover, I keep adding it to everything but. So let's just add it to all the layers, I guess. So that way, when people hover, you know, it doesn't matter what they hover on, they get to see the right number. So let's do this. Remove this. This. Hit OK. And final try. So now when we hover, we can see the actual numbers there, which gives the real information. 2.4, that's 2.362, etc., etc. And then we can see the difference that even though this is 4.2, is actually 4.22, and this is 4.158. So this one was a very straightforward one, I would say, for the most part. I think the biggest thing that, you know, for those who are going to use map layers, would be just trying to finesse, you know, the even spaces between these. I'd say it took me about like 10 minutes to just play around with those numbers. But again, you don't necessarily have to do that if you don't want to, but sometimes I just like to do these things that way. So thanks for watching this video. I hope this is helpful for you. And of course, if you have any feedback, questions, or thoughts, feel free to let me know. I hope you get to partake and join us in this year's DuBois challenge. And of course, happy visiting. Remember, this always has to be fun. And so I hope you have fun as you build cool things in Tableau. Take care.